We are delighted to welcome you to the launch of the government-to-government dialogue on demographic diversity and dividends, which we refer to as the 4D series. And as you can see, we have the 4Ds, dialogue on demographic diversity and dividends. We have distinguished guests and panelists that will engage in an interactive and insightful discussion today. Colleagues, distinguished participants, excellencies, today's event marks the beginning of a series of quarterly dialogues over the next 2 years, 8 dialogues in total, which will facilitate countries' exchanges on policy successes and challenges encountered when planning for demographic changes in respective countries, and in an effort to harness the demographic dividend. If you all remember, the African Union theme in 2017 was harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in youth. Therefore, these dialogues are appropriate and timely, as they give us an opportunity to address the immense manpower potential we have if we look at our demographics. Before I invite our distinguished guests, let me share some technical instructions. Throughout the launch, we want to hear from you. We invite you to engage in the digital conversation around the dialogue series on Twitter using the hashtag, the 4D series. I repeat again, the hashtag, the 4D series, or directly via the YouTube chat box. Interpretation is available on the link in both French and English. So please be assured that you'll be able to hear what is happening. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Maria Flashbath, the Parliamentary Secretary of the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development of Germany, to make her opening remarks. Dr. Maria, over to you. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Moderator. Excellencies, Commissioner on Social Affairs, Dr. El Fadil, Deputy Executive Director, Dr. Keiter, esteemed partners from all over the globe, ladies and gentlemen. We live in an area of profound and diverse demographic changes. The world population is growing from almost 8 billion people in 2020 to almost 10 billion in 2050. Age structures are changing in all regions of the world. More than 2/3 of the population in Asia is of working age, but in the future, there will be more people aged 64 years and over. In Africa, around 40% of the population is younger than 15 years of age, but in many countries, the share of working age adults is on the rise. And in Europe, only 16% of all people are younger than 15, while 19% are more than 64 years old. These transformations create new opportunities, but also new challenges. And although the world is more demographically diverse than ever before, one thing is true for countries across the globe: fostering human potential and planning well for demographic changes is critical to seize the opportunities provided by demographic dividends. Last year at the Nairobi conference, to mark the 25th anniversary of the International Conference on Population and Development, I took part in a discussion about this with experts from all over the world. And I witnessed a vibrant exchange of ideas on policies and approaches for handling demographic change. Many of our partners across the globe shared their successful strategies for creating the opportunities needed for people to become actors of sustainable development. In order to continue the conversation started back in Nairobi, the African Union, the United Nations Population Fund, and Germany have joined forces. We have initiated this new series of government-to-government policy dialogues on demographic diversity and dividends, so that we can learn still more from each other about planning for demographic change. And so I'm delighted to speak at the opening event today. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, coordinated action has become even more urgent across sectors and countries. The pandemic has turned our lives upside down in many regards and put the lives of many at risk. It could jeopardize our joint efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals and realize demographic dividends. Today, we can already see some of the tremendous consequences of the pandemic. The livelihoods of hundreds of millions of people in developing countries are in acute danger. In Africa alone, over 20 million jobs are at risk. Young women and girls are particularly affected by the suspension of health services. For example, during the first 2 months of the lockdown, assisted birth in Nepal decreased by 50%. And in the Turkana region in Kenya, the number of teenage pregnancies has tripled. Therefore, building strong and resilient health system is part of our COVID-19 response. As part of our BMZ initiative on right-based family planning and maternal health, we invest yearly up to 100 million euros in finding joint approaches and solutions with our partner countries in improving access to modern contraceptives and enhancing professional birth assistance. Our multilateral partners are crucial in achieving these goals. And so I'm really delighted that Germany has been able to partner with the UNFPA and the AU. These are two close and long-standing partners. We appreciate UNFPA's continuing efforts to put young people and women at the forefront of their work, also in times of crisis. And the African Union is the most significant African regional organization, where Germany has been supporting this since 2003. Our two continents are neighbors, and cooperation with Africa is a focus of Germany's development policy. So I look forward to the exciting insights that our dialogue events will bring. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maria. Your remarks reminded us of the summit in Nairobi and for reminding us how much COVID-19 is threatening the gains we have made and also the challenges that we will face in meeting the Agendas 2030 and 2063. The partnership of the German government, UNFPA and AUC will go a long way in addressing some of these challenges. We look forward to the upcoming dialogue and specifically to the launch of this dialogue. Thank you very much, Dr. Maria. It is now my pleasure to invite my sister and dear friend, Her Excellency, Dr. Amira El Fadil, the Commissioner for Social Affairs at the African Union Commissioner. Dr. Amira, over to you.
Thank you very much, Toko. Thank you to you, to UNECA, for the close collaboration during this pandemic, beyond this pandemic of COVID-19, and I believe after this pandemic we will continue this very good level of collaboration. Also, my greetings goes to my two sisters, Maria and Diana Keta. Always good to see you both. To the rest of the participants from governments, from UN agencies, all of you, I thank you for having me part of this meeting and having the African Union for this meeting. It's a very important policy dialogue that we are initiating today. We need to continue this dialogue and these conversations, and I salute highly the initiative, and definitely the African Union is a major player in this policy dialogues. Thank you very much again, and I would like to bring to you the greetings of His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, the chairperson of the African Union Commission. And I would like to extend the sincere appreciation of the AU Commission to the United Nations Population Fund and the government of the Republic of Germany for co-organizing of today's launch event of a series of policy dialogues on demographic diversity and dividends to be held under the theme Advancing Human Capital for People-Centered Development. And with Germany also, we have different areas of collaboration, health. We have also a very close collaboration in the areas of migration and labor migration. So we do appreciate very much the partnership with the government of Germany. And I would like through you, Madame Maria, to appreciate also the support we got from the government for the COVID-19 fight in Africa. The government of Germany donated medical equipment equivalent of 10 million euros. So thank you very much for this support. Excellencies, the Commission has a strong commitment to leveraging Africa's demographic diversity and for each of its member states to realize and benefit from the economic growth potential of demographic dividend. In 2017, as you know, the African Union at its highest level dedicated the year 2017 for the African Union. The theme of the year was on the demographic dividend, and all of us, we know that more than 60% of our population in the continent is under the age of 25. So this is an asset, but at the same time, it's a challenge for the continent. The theme of the year to harnessing the demographic dividend through investment in the youth and the appointment of His Excellency President Idriss Déby Itno, President of the Republic of Chad, and the African Union champion on the demographic dividend. This was happened by the heads of states and government in 2017. Since then, the AU member states have advanced their commitments to reaping the dividend through the domestication of the AU roadmap on the demographic dividend in 2017 and beyond, and the subsequent development of national demographic dividend profiles to inform policy development and implementation. This roadmap, or the implementation of this roadmap, is led by the Department of Human Resources and Technology within the African Union Commission, because the Department of HRST is a department mandated with youth issues. So we are together in this implementation, my department and the Department of HRST. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Commission has in place a number of people-centered initiatives that will advance human capital development of the African people. These initiatives include, I will mention only some of these initiatives. We have the initiative, the Chairperson's initiative on the 1 million by 2020 initiative. This initiative is to create 1 million new opportunities for the young Africans in education, employment, entrepreneurship, and also for the engagement of the young people across the continent and in the diaspora also. And for the implementation of this 1 million by 2020 initiative, by 2021 initiative, myself with Commissioner of HRST and Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture, and by the CEO of NIPAD or AUDA, we have launched an initiative in New York 1 year ago on the 100,000 SMEs initiative in Africa. And this is especially for creating more job opportunities by using microfinance opportunities, and it's a very successful initiative. The leading agency for the implementation is NIPAD AUDA. Second, we have the revised migration policy framework for Africa and the plan of action 2018-2027. This plan of action provides member states and our RECs with comprehensive policy guidelines and principles to assist them in the formulation and implementation of their own national and regional migration policies in accordance with their priorities and resources. We have also the AU Programme on Migration and Health, addressing the health challenges of migrants, refugees, and IDPs in the continent. We have the protocol on the free movement of people rights of residents, rights of establishment. But this protocol, it needs more efforts from us and from you. As partners, we need to make sure that the same way we did for the Continental Free Trade Area, the ACFTA, we have succeeded in having the ratifications, the signing and the ratifications of our member states. The CFTA will accelerate the trade, and it will boost trading position in the global market for Africa. We would like to do the same for the protocol of the free movement. We have around 30 countries as signatories of this protocol, but the ratification are going very slowly. So we need your efforts with us to make sure that this protocol, it will be ratified, because it will encourage more mobility within the continent. Yes, this is what's happening now, that we have more mobility within the continent, but if we have this protocol coming into force, it will encourage more movement within the continent. So we have the combination of the free movement of the people with the free movement of services, with the free movement of trade between our member states. And this also will give us the opportunity of having more jobs in the continent for our young Africans, so they are not too frustrated to go risk their lives trying to flee the continent. We have also the re-strengthening of the campaign, the well-known campaign, the Karma campaign, for the acceleration of the reduction of the maternal mortality in the continent, to end all preventable maternal, child, newborn, and adolescent deaths by 2030. Also, this campaign, I don't need to go into the details. It is all of us, we are partners in this Karma campaign. It's a very successful campaign. We did the evaluation. We have the recommendations of the evaluation. We need to continue working on this campaign. We need to make sure that we will continue on the successes, and also we will put solutions for the challenges. But this campaign is so much needed for the health of our women in the continent, not only the women, but also the young girls in Africa. The Pan-African Institute for Statistics is an institution to facilitate comparison of statistics of AU member states across time. It also is a very important initiative. It is relevant to this demographic dividend. To have an updated statistics is very important for us. We have also AMA, the African Medicine Agency. This agency is targeting the improve of our regulations, access to quality, safe and efficacious medicines and medical products on the continent. And also allow me here to stop and say that while we are fighting COVID-19, we felt the big gap we have in the area of producing and manufacturing pharmaceuticals in our continent, and producing locally the medical equipment that we need to fight COVID-19. So we have a big gap in this area. That's why AMA is a very important technical institution. It is needed for the continent. The way we did for Africa CDC, that's what we need to do to have AMA coming into force. We have 16 signatories. We have 5 countries ratified, but we keep on calling on our member states, please sign and ratify AMA, so the African Union Commission will play its part in establishing AMA by 2021, because AMA is a complementary agency needed to complete the work of Africa CDC. We have the African Humanitarian Agency. We have the protocol to the African Charter on People's Rights, the right of older human and people rights on the rights of older persons. We have the protocol on people with disability. I don't want to mention all the legal instruments we have, but my point here is to say that we have enough instruments, legal instruments, we have initiatives, we have policies. Our gap in the implementation. I call upon you partners, I call upon you member states, let us do our efforts, let us exert our efforts on having more implementation. Since I came as a commissioner to the African Union in 2017, I kept on repeating it. What we need is more implementation. What we need is an acceleration of the implementation. That's what the continent needs, but we have the right policies in place. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, guided by our AU Constitutive Act to promote and defend Africa common positions on issues of interest to the continent and its people, and also by the aspirations 1 and 6 of our Agenda 2063 for the Africa we want. Our Agenda 2063 is our aspiration for a prosperous Africa based on inclusive and sustainable development, and a continent that whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential offered by the African people.
Commissioner, I'm going to speed you up.
I will.
You're eating into your time. Thank
Just
you.
2 minutes. The Commission is also undertaking an important initiative to develop a common African position on population and development. Our member states have been invited along regional lines to deliberate and interrogate population and development issues. We had a successful meeting in Ghana. This meeting for the ministers responsible for population, we are building on it, and we are exerting also our efforts to have this common position, as well as identify our priorities, challenges, best practices, and common solutions. The Commission also recognized the importance of addressing the varying and often unique context that has an impact on the diverse populations and development issues of the continent. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, my apologies if I took long in this opening of this dialogue, but our collective efforts on the impact of COVID-19 is a pertinent reminder to us all, member states, stakeholders, and partners of the need to place matters that affect and impact all population at the highest level of the development agenda. But we proved through this fight of COVID-19 that we can fight whatever problems we have in the continent together and in close collaboration and in unity. Excellencies, the upcoming series of the policy dialogues on demographic diversity and dividends shall be instrumental to showcase the success, the best practices, and challenges of member states, and also to allow for a concerted effort towards Africa realizing its full potential in line with the aspirations of Africa's transformative Agenda 2053. Thank you again, and my apologies, Toko. I became very talkative with this COVID-19. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I know we don't give you adequate time. Your passion and commitment to Africa's development is well known. We should actually give you more time than we've given you to make the presentation, and also to acknowledge your leadership in Africa's response to COVID-19, working together with Africa CDC. Thank you very much. And for the initiatives you and your sister commissioners have put in place. And as you rightly say, we have the policies, is the response that we need, the actions to be able to reap the dividends, the demographic dividend. Once again, thank you, Commissioner. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Diane Keita, the Deputy Executive Director of UNFPA, for her opening remarks. Dr. Keita, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator and dear sister. Honorable Dr. Maria Flaxbart, Vigits, Your Excellency, my dearest sister Amira El Fadil, I love your passion. I love your passion. Distinguished panelists, esteemed partners, young people, and dear friends, good day to you all. Salam, bonjour. UNFPA is proud to co-host this important event. We are so grateful for Germany's partnership and support to work on such important and defining issues as demographic dividend. As noted by Dr. Maria Flaxbart, this series was born from a signature session on demographic diversity and dividend in Nairobi last year. In that event, government came together to discuss their diverse experience on demographic transition, the challenge they faced, and policy that helped advance prosperity. Allow me to reemphasize that when it comes to the average age of countries, the world is more diverse today than ever. While many populations in Africa remain quite young, others in Asia and Eastern Europe are facing rapid population aging. Yet, as we enter the decade of action, We all seek the best approach to people-centered development and the best investment for both young and aging nations to harness demographic dividends. For that reason, the goal of this dialogue series is to facilitate exchange and mutual learning among governments at all stages of the demographic transition. For young population, a demographic dividend is made possible when fertility declines and a large youth bulge moves into the working age. That generation can lift the economy of a country by expanding the number of working age population relative to the very young and very old. But such a dividend is only possible if the youth bulge entering the job market has received ample investment in their health, education, rights and choices, and ultimately, if their knowledge and skills can grow a modern economy and there are decent jobs for them. Hence, opportunities for young people, young men and women, are central to a demographic dividend. And what a better way to leave no one behind than strong demographic dividend studies. For aging population, a second demographic dividend is also possible. A second dividend occurs when a large aging generation has experienced a lifetime of economic opportunity and is able to reinvest in the country. Where lifelong health and learning, reliable jobs, and social protection allow people to age with dignity, they bring a second demographic dividend by giving back to the next generation as investor, entrepreneur, mentors, and leaders. The first and second demographic dividend cannot be separated, as both demand that people have lifelong opportunities to prosper, including the right to decide when and whether to marry and start a family, and the means to balance work and family life. This series will address policy lessons across a wide range of sectors and host a dialogue each quarter for the coming 2 years. The next dialogue on November 19 will focus on data, particularly population and sector data needed for government to forecast and plan effectively. That will be followed by dialogue on a range of themes, including health, jobs, and social protection. And I hope we will not shy away from AUC 6th region, the diaspora, and the Afro-descendanted. Yet, allow me to emphasize that this series is a platform for all of us, and we welcome your suggestion for future themes. UNFPA is proud to have partnered with the African Union in 2017 on its effort to mobilize political commitment to harness a demographic dividend. To ongoing implementation of demographic dividend roadmaps represent an important example of what can be achieved when government, private sector, and civil society work together. In West Africa, UNFPA continues to implement the SUED program, which remains a unique flagship partnership and is now moving to expansion. We are equally proud to be entering the 5th year of our global program on aging and low fertility, supporting healthy aging and policy that underpin the balance of work and family life. While COVID-19 has led to a greater isolation for many, we hope that this series will spark essential conversation that bring us closer together to share policy solutions, to build forward together, and to achieve dividends for all. It is a unique opportunity to partner more than ever with our dear UNECA. Before I end my speech, I bring to all of you the warm greetings of our Executive Director, Dr. Natalia Kanem, and really would like to pay tribute to the amazing UNFPA team working with you on this series of conversation. Dear Honorable Dr. Maria Flaxbar, danke schön. I thank you. Je vous remercie. Shukran.
Thank you very much, Dr. Keita. Certainly, partnership is crucial, and our ability to meet the opportunities provided by our demographics can only be through partnerships. Thank you very much. On behalf of all the participants of the launch event, I sincerely thank the co-organizers of the 4D series, the government of Germany, the African Union, and UNFPA for carrying forward the Nairobi discussions. I never thought I would see the Nairobi discussions coming out in these rich dialogues and creating this platform for countries to continue exchanging and crafting policy solutions for sectoral investments in the human capital. My sister, Commissioner Amira, did say they have policies in place and countries have started implementing the roadmap. And this is an opportunity to share the experiences of implementing the roadmap. Thank you very much. I'm now going to move over and introduce the panelists. And my request to all the panelists, please be precise and brief and stick within your times. I don't want to interrupt you, because once I interrupt you, we lose your brilliant idea, so stick to your time. It is now my pleasure to introduce our first panelist, Dr. Sonalde Desire from the University of Maryland. My apologies if I pronounced your name wrongly. And the Director of National Data Innovation Center in New Delhi for her introductory intervention to set the stage for the panel discussion. Over to you, Dr. Desai.
Thank you very much for this invitation to participate in this dialogue. Over the past decade, the term demographic dividend has become part and parcel of our vocabulary, reflecting a virtuous cycle in which investments in family planning leads to declining number of dependents, coupled with a large generation of workers. This one-time benefit offers a window of opportunity to invest in education, health, and infrastructure to create a long-lasting increase in productivity and quality of life. When we met in November in Nairobi, our focus was on the youth, the marginalized populations, and women to ensure that this virtuous cycle does not leave them behind. What a difference this 11 months have made. With the world in the grip of pandemic and global economic crisis, we will have to struggle hard to ensure that hasty responses to the pandemic do not undo the gains made by the global community. The only way for us to do that is to set clear priorities and to ensure that our response to the COVID-19 crisis are consistent with our commitment to enhancing the demographic dividend. I think there are three areas that deserve particular attention. The first, ensuring livelihood protection to maximize the first dividend. Educational policies to ensure that we do not lose first generational learners to school closures and fail to realize the second demographic dividend. And reshaping social protection policies to keep our promises to older citizens for a healthy and happy aging. Let me expand on each of these three. The first dividend can only be realized if our large generation of young workers can continue to be productive in African Union and elsewhere. Okay, the economies are shutting down from the fear of pandemic. So how do we do this? Okay, this issue is even more likely to become pressing for women who are often in unprotected employment and are burdened with childcare. Research by my colleagues at National Council of Applied Economic Research in India shows that among individuals in wage employment, during the economic lockdown, male employment fell by 40%, but for women, the drop was 71%. Starting from an already low access to wage employment, this is a sharp reduction. Unless women's access to wage work, ability to continue their small and micro businesses, and improved access to childcare is prioritized during the recovery, we are going to fritter away a large proportion of the hard-won demographic dividend. The second issue to focus on is that the biggest benefit of fertility reduction lies in a smaller generation of children. Using savings from a lower dependency ratio, we can reap the second demographic dividend as we invest in health and education of children and enhance economic growth. However, with school closures associated with COVID-19, we are looking at tremendous inequality in learning outcomes among children. Children in rich countries and among middle-class families in poor countries Internet access is stable. Parents are educated and able to supervise homework and perhaps overcome the impact of school closures. But for the disadvantaged, the first generation learners, situation is different. Many live in localities with poor connectivity and their parents are unable to help them with schoolwork. For them, this is going to be a lost year. With increased responsibility for caring for siblings and lack of digital access, girls are going to be particularly likely to be educationally deprived. Finding pedagogical techniques that help them retain their interest in schoolwork, ensuring that the return to school is not traumatic, and helping teachers cope with uneven student skills in the same classroom is going to be necessary if we do not want to lose the educational progress we have made over the past 2 decades. The third dividend brings with it the contributions that a healthy and productive generation of senior citizens can make to a society and an economy. Creating a framework for healthy aging is a promise we made to our citizens when we told them to trust in the promise of economic development instead of the support system consisting of their large families and children, as we urge them to restrict fertility. Will we be able to support this shifting intergenerational contract? It would have been difficult enough in normal times. COVID-19 adds a layer of challenge that we must recognize. We are just beginning to recognize the long-term health consequences of COVID-19 exposure. But enough is known to tell us that there is a good chance that many of our senior citizens will be coping with impaired health. The gender dimension of this challenge has received almost no attention, but with substantially higher mortality rate among men, the surviving population is likely to be overwhelmingly female. The economic conditions of older women are highly precarious. Women are overwhelmingly employed in informal sector without pensions and social security benefits. Most household assets are owned by men. In Ghana, research shows that 70% of land parcels are owned by men. In India, men are 3 times as likely to own their own homes as women. Can we really expect women with no assets and no claim to social security to live as happy, healthy, and productive senior citizens? This is an issue we will need to pay special attention to as we go along. The silver lining about this pandemic, however, is that this is not a problem that divides the rich and the poor countries. Everyone is suffering from the same challenge and dealing with the same issues as the poor countries, and the poor and the vulnerable in rich countries fight this battle together. It's a unique moment for us to share our challenges and solutions. And rather than to have the words of wisdom flow from global north to global south, we can work on this together. And I hope this dialogue brings together a renewed determination to join the hands and fight this battle together. Thank you and wish you all the best as you continue this dialogue.
Thank you very much, Dr. Desai, for that overview of the demographic dividend and also raising some of the issues that came from the Nairobi Summit, looking at issues of education, inequalities, and how these inequalities are being exacerbated by COVID-19. Women's work and earnings, changing the intergenerational contract. These are critical issues, and as we go forward in our conversation, I hope we can look at all those issues critically. Thank you very much for that overview. Again, a reminder to the panelists, you only have 5 minutes, and I would like you to move fast. Otherwise, I would have to interrupt you. You only have 5 minutes. It is now my pleasure to invite Minister Owood Ehi to hear the experiences from Mauritania. Honorable Minister, my apologies, I'm probably killing your name. I'm so English speaking. Over to you, Honorable Minister. Minister, are you there?
Bonjour.
Thank you.
Vous m'entendez?
You have 5 minutes, the Honorable Minister.
Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais d'abord remercier la Commission de l'Union africaine, le gouvernement allemand et l'UNFPA pour l'organisation de cet événement très important, porte sur le dialogue sur les dividendes, la diversité des dividendes, et sur le capital humain qui pose un véritable défi pour le monde, mais aussi, en particulier pour l'Afrique, et notamment pour les pays du Sahel. L'Afrique connaît un taux de croissance démographique très fort. Sa population est caractérisée par la jeunesse de l'âge. Et donc, ça fait à la fois un défi et une opportunité si on arrive à développer les bonnes politiques qui vont pouvoir libérer les énergies de notre jeunesse. La Mauritanie a un taux de croissance de 2,7%, un taux de croissance démographique. Sa population est très jeune. Nous avons 44,2% de la population qui sont en dessous de 15 ans. Au plan économique, le pays dispose d'importantes ressources naturelles. Le taux de croissance économique était autour de 5% avant Covid. Covid a bien sûr changé les données. L'économie est marquée par une forte présence du secteur informel qui rémunère peu et qui ne garantit pas des emplois stables. En matière d'éducation, malgré un bon taux de scolarisation, l'ensemble des jeunes Mauritaniens ont accès à une éducation fondamentale. La parité entre garçons et filles à l'éducation fondamentale est assurée. Mais plus les jeunes avancent dans leur éducation, le taux de scolarisation se détériore. Et nous avons des taux de scolarisation au niveau du secondaire qui atteignent à peine 40% et qui sont très faibles pour les filles qui ne peuvent pas se déplacer pour aller rejoindre l'offre d'éducation secondaire là où ils se retrouvent. En matière de santé, le pays continue à enregistrer des taux non satisfaisants de couverture des besoins de santé reproductive et le taux de mortalité maternelle et infantile reste élevé. En matière d'emploi, nous sommes, comme tous les pays africains, confrontés à un véritable défi d'offrir de plus en plus d'emplois, en particulier aux jeunes et aux femmes, qui sont les franges de la population qui souffrent le plus du sous-emploi et du chômage. Face à ces défis, la Mauritanie a pris un véritable engagement pro-dividende démographique et pro-développement du capital humain. La Mauritanie est inscrite naturellement à l'agenda de l'Union africaine 2063, l'Afrique que nous voulons. Elle travaille bien sûr pour l'atteinte des ODD à l'horizon 2030. Elle est également membre de l'initiative SWED, projet d'autonomisation des femmes et dividendes démographiques, qui est une initiative engagée par les gouvernements de 7 pays africains, dont les 5 pays du G5 Sahel, avec l'appui de la Banque mondiale et de l'UNFPA. Cette initiative appuie le développement de la scolarisation des filles, aide à développer des activités génératrices au profit des femmes, mais développe surtout une grande stratégie de communication pour les changements de comportement vis-à-vis de l'association, la participation des femmes dans tous les aspects de la vie économique et sociale. Au plan national, la Mauritanie dispose d'une stratégie de croissance accélérée de prospérité partagée pour 2016-2030 qui cherche à exploiter l'opportunité de dividendes démographiques offerte par la jeunesse de la population à travers un objectif de réduction de la dépendance économique des jeunes. Les jeunes accèdent tardivement au marché de l'emploi, donc les politiques travaillent à faire accéder les jeunes plus tôt au marché de l'emploi. Elles travaillent également à améliorer la contribution des femmes aux productions du revenu national. Les femmes aujourd'hui en Mauritanie ne produisent que 27% du revenu national, contre 73% pour les hommes. Ces politiques travaillent également à améliorer la participation du monde rural à la production de la richesse. Le monde rural ne produit aujourd'hui que 39% de la richesse du pays, contre 61% pour le monde urbain. Pour aboutir à ces objectifs, la Mauritanie s'est dotée d'une politique de la population et d'une stratégie de décentralisation et de développement local. au plan des politiques pro-dividendes démographiques et développement du capital humain, la politique générale du gouvernement qui vient d'être approuvée par le Parlement comporte un axe important intitulé « Un capital humain valorisé au service du développement ».
Honorable Minister, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm going to ask you to pick up the main highlights of your presentation, and we can share the full presentation.
Pardon?
Hello, can you hear us? The interpreter is not working. Can you repeat the question, please?
Thank you. I'm inviting the minister to pick up the highlights because he's running out of his time, and his presentation will be shared with the audience.
Okay.
Très bien. Donc, pour le développement du capital humain, la Mauritanie donc, dispose d'un axe dans sa politique de développement du capital humain avec accent sur l'éducation, sur tous les défis, sur la santé en matière de santé reproductive, sur l'emploi, surtout pour l'emploi des jeunes et des femmes, et sur la participation économique et sociale des femmes dans le développement économique du pays. Dans le contexte Covid, comme riposte, la Mauritanie vient de lancer un programme prioritaire élargi du président de la République qui comporte d'importants financements pour relancer l'économie. Et donc, à peu près 40% des fonds vont s'adresser à l'offre sociale et le soutien de la demande, et vont être investis dans la santé, l'éducation, l'emploi des jeunes, l'autonomisation des femmes, surtout en direction des franges les plus pauvres de la population. Pour accélérer l'ensemble de ces politiques, la Mauritanie a mis en place une agence nationale qui s'appelle TAAZO, l'entraide, dont l'objectif est d'accélérer les politiques pour l'inclusion des franges les plus pauvres de la population en matière de santé, d'éducation et d'emploi. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mohammed, the Minister of National Education, Technical Training and Reform of Mauritania. I know I cut you and there was a lot to share, and would like to share your presentation with the rest of the audience. Thank you very much. Can I ask all the panelists, please, to switch on their cameras? Please switch on your cameras, all the panelists, so that we can see you. It is now my pleasure to invite Mr. Stephen Lauren Apete Matongo to share the experience of the Central African Republic. Over to you, Mr. Matongo. And please, can you all switch on your camera so that we can see you? Mr. Matongo, over to you, and we have exactly 5 minutes. And by the way, I'm timing the 5 minutes.
Vraiment de mettre vos caméras pour qu'on puisse vous voir, vous voir. Je voudrais maintenant inviter Monsieur
Mr. Matongo, we can't hear you. Mr. Matongo, we can't hear you.
S'il vous plaît, mettez vos caméras en marche pour qu'on puisse vous voir.
Technicians, please, can you help Mr. Matongo? We can't hear him. Mr. Matongo, you're muted. Can you unmute, please? You're muted. Please, can you unmute? Interpreters, can you help me and ask Mr. Matongo to unmute?
Bonjour.
Thank you.
Bonjour. Bonjour.
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Matongo. Please proceed. We can hear you.
Bonjour. Voilà.
Bonjour. Please proceed.
Voilà, je suis Steve Laura Apete Matongo. Je tiens à remercier le gouvernement allemand et puis l'Organisation des Nations Unies pour la population et puis tous les organisateurs de ce meeting-là. Et je ne manquerai pas de remercier également le modérateur qui me donne l'occasion d'intervenir au cours de cette réunion. Alors, la République centrafricaine est un pays enclavé de l'Afrique centrale que vous le connaissez tous, avec une croissance démographique d'environ 2%, un ratio de mortalité maternelle de 882 pour 100 000 naissances vivantes, et puis un niveau de besoins non satisfaits en planification familiale de l'ordre de 27% au-dessous de la moyenne de la région ouest et centrale africaine, qui est autour de 24%. Une fécondité très élevée, soit 6,2 enfants par femme et une dizaine de milliers de cas de VBH, de VBG. Une pauvreté qui se situait aux environs de 61% et qui a gagné 10% de plus actuellement en lien avec la présence du Covid-19. Un accès limité à l'instruction avec un taux de scolarisation primaire de 67%, dont 60% pour les filles et 73% pour les garçons. Au niveau secondaire, c'est 13%, dont 9% pour les filles et 17% pour les garçons. Un taux d'alphabétisation de 32% pour les femmes contre 53,8% pour les hommes. Voilà. Et un système éducatif sinistré. Seulement 55% des enfants, dont 51% des filles et 58% des garçons, accèdent au fondamental 1 à l'âge officiel requis et 18% au fondamental 2. Voilà très brièvement comment je peux présenter avec ces quelques chiffres la République centrafricaine. Si d'autres questions sont là, je peux répondre.
Mr. Matongo, we've lost you. Interpreters, please help me. We've lost you, Mr. Matongo.
I don't believe
I
he's
can
saying
see your
anything.
video.
Yes. His video is also inverted.
Yes. Mr. Matongo, are you there? Can I come back to Mr. Matongo because I'm running out of time and move on to the next? I'll come back to you.
Okay, we can hear him now. So if he can just speak, no need for the video.
Mr. Matongo, please, can you go ahead and speak? To help with your connectivity, don't put on your video.
Oui, je vous entends, je vais continuer. Je peux continuer? Oui, je peux continuer.
Yes, please. And just to alert you that you've got 3 minutes to go.
Allô? Vous m'entendez? Je peux continuer?
Yes, you should continue.
Oui,
and
je
alert
vous
him that
écoute,
he's
je peux
only got 3
continuer?
minutes.
Allô?
Hello, Mr. Matongo. Interpreter, please, can you tell him we can hear him and he's got 3 minutes?
Bon, maintenant.
Oui.
Mr. Matongo, can I move on to the next speaker and come back to
Bon,
you?
en ce qui concerne comment exploiter le dividende démographique en République centrafricaine, voilà. La récupération ou l'exploitation du dividende démographique en République centrafricaine passe par la promotion de l'investissement dans les secteurs intensifs en travail. Au travers des jeux. C'est-à-dire, il faut promouvoir la récupération des jeunes déscolarisés. Vous savez, en République centrafricaine, il y a 2 types de jeunes. Ceux qui continuent les études et ceux qui ne continuent plus les études. Il faut récupérer ceux qui ne continuent plus les études. Et puis, faire une adéquation des formations professionnelles besoin de la demande des entreprises. Parce qu'on s'est rendu compte également que il y a un déphasage entre la formation et les besoins en entreprise. Donc, il faut qu'il y ait une adéquation de formation professionnelle des jeunes aux besoins des entreprises. Et la République centrafricaine, dans cette dynamique aussi, a élaboré une politique nationale de l'emploi pour la formation des jeunes. Et le gouvernement, dans le cadre de la santé, a adopté en 2019 les 10 domaines d'impulsion présidentielle pour la couverture sanitaire universelle, dont la plupart portent sur la santé de la mère et de l'enfant, avec un focus spécifique sur la planification familiale et l'autonomisation des femmes, l'élaboration du investissement sur la réduction de la mortalité maternelle et infantile et la promotion de la planification familiale. Il faut soutenir aussi, dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre des dividendes négatifs, des investissements dans les infrastructures. D'abord, investir dans les routes, parce que les routes permettent le désenclavement des villes, qui ont une conséquence et une incidence significative sur le taux d'inscription et l'assiduité scolaire et la présence du personnel enseignant et qualifié. Le gouvernement a réhabilité en fin 2019 350 dans cette optique. Là, le gouvernement a réhabilité en 2019 350 km de routes et des pistes rurales. Il faut aussi investir dans les technologies de l'information et de la communication avec leur implication qui améliore l'efficience des activités des services, la santé, l'éducation et bien d'autres permettant aux jeunes d'accéder à des informations présentant une utilité immédiate pour améliorer leur situation économique. Dans cette optique, le gouvernement, en partenariat avec la banque, vient de procéder au lancement du projet
Matongo, can I ask you to wind up, please?
Technologie de l'information et de la communication. Investir également dans l'énergie pour faciliter l'accès de la population, notamment le jeune, au développement des activités économiques. Alors, en ce qui concerne l'impact de Covid sur l'économie centrafricaine, je tiens à signaler qu'en 2019, le gouvernement a perdu 5,2 points de croissance, ce qui équivaut à 3 557 000 dollars de pertes sur l'économie d'une manière générale.
Excuse me, can I come in, Mr. Matongo? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Matongo, but you've run out of your time.
Pour me permettre de participer.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matongo, the Director General of Economy and Development Planning at the Ministry of Economy Planning and Cooperation of Central Africa. I recognize that you had a lot of connectivity challenges, so we might have missed some of your interventions, but please share your presentation and it will be circulated in the audience. It's now my pleasure to invite Mr. Chavala to present the Zambia experience. And Mr. Chavala, can I ask you to keep to the 5 minutes?
Good afternoon. I'll try as much as possible to stick to the time given. Just to start by appreciating the partnership between UNFPA and the Federal Republic of Germany. And I'll speak within the context of what we're doing within the Republic of Zambia with regard to integrating issues of demographic development in our development planning processes. Zambia does recognize the need for timely, strategic, targeted, and simultaneous people-centered investments in various sectors of the economy through an integrated approach. It's worth noting that Zambia, like many other African countries, has a youth population comprising of 46% below the age of 15. And this to us presents an opportunity for harnessing demographic dividends if appropriate investments are made in strategic areas, which include the economy, education, health, family planning, among many others. The key human capital challenges to harness the demographic dividend that we have identified as a country include the fact that majority of the population live in abject poverty. We also are facing contraction of resource envelope. This is against the backdrop of constrained investment because we have some debt obligations as a country that we need to honor. And the economy has stagnated because of the onset of COVID-19. We also have a high income and gender inequalities. Our Gini coefficient is about 0.69%, and the gender inequality index is about 0.54. High teenage pregnancy still remains a challenge at 29%. We also have unmet need for family planning, which is at about 20%. Less than half of our women of reproductive age use contraceptives, and this is about 46%. High prevalence of HIV and AIDS at 11% still remains a daunting task that we need to deal with. Completion rates is about, for primary education, is at 80%. We'd like it to be as high as 100%. And therefore, national strategies that are being implemented to support demographic dividend include the National Development Plan, which has got strategic pillars that would incorporate areas that deal with demographic dividends. We also did a demographic dividend report, which also informed the formulation of our 7th National Development Plan. Zambia recently launched the revised population policy, and we are hoping that this is going to be a strategic document that is going to help us come up with a well-blended policy mix to inform our interventions in various sectors of the economy with a view to propel the change in our population pyramid from a dependent to a more productive one. And so those are some of the areas that we'd like to share with the rest of the world, but demographic dividend is highly on the agenda for Zambia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chivala, and for keeping time. The Permanent Secretary for Development Planning and Administration in the Ministry of National Planning in the Republic of Zambia. Thank you very much. I would now like to invite Dr. Abla Amawa to speak about the Arab countries' experiences. Dr. Amawa, over to you.
Thank you very much. And I thank the organizers for inviting me on behalf of the Arab Population and Development Council of the League of Arab States. I will start to stick to the time that I'm actually speaking about a very diverse region in terms of having different levels of socioeconomic development. It combines highly indebted countries, the middle income countries, as well as the net contributing countries or oil producers. Also, the region is characterized, as you all know, by presence of conflict, civil conflict and fragility, as well as disparities in terms of rural-urban disparities and other disparities. So this means that it's going through, as a region, through several stages of the demographic dividend, where we have some countries that are in the pre-demographic dividend stage, some are at early demographic dividends, and others are late or may miss, actually, or may have missed the demographic dividend. So what is really the implications of all of that and the characteristics of this region is that we actually have about 6% of the adolescents in the world. 37% of our youth live in conflict and situations of conflict and fragility. 58% of the world's refugees, half of the world's IDPs. So if you start with that, this is without COVID, and the implications of COVID on the region, we are seeing that there will be an increase in terms of acute poverty. We already have about 1 in 4 that live in acute poverty and over 118 million that live in poverty. We have 1 in 5 early child marriages, and this definitely has increased due to the COVID crisis, increase in poverty and increase in inequality. 61% are unemployed among the refugees, and many of them do not have access to schools and education. So this leaves us with very high unemployment for women. The region is one of the last regions globally in terms of closing the gender gap. Just to give you an example, 39% of the females are unemployed in North Africa alone and 41% in the rest of the region. So where does this take us forward? And what implications does it have at the policy level? I think we will have during the debate the chance to discuss this, but there has been, and this is my closing, very concerted effort by UNFPA, the regional UNFPA offices, as well as the global, by the League of Arab States, by the Arab Council on Population and Development, to really work on the Nairobi commitments, to work on achieving the commitments made in the SDGs and the global agenda, as well as the ICPD. And with that, I'll close. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amawa, and for keeping the time. Dr. Amawa is the head of the Arab Population Council with last for all the Arab countries. Thank you very much. I'll now invite Honorable Minister Nelia Rusu to share with us the experience of Moldova. Honorable Minister Rusu, over to you.
Your Excellencies, Dr. Amira El Fadil, Dr. Maria Flexbar, Dr. Jean Keita, distinguished participants, dear friends. It is my pleasure to participate on behalf of the Government of the Republic of Moldova at the launch of quarterly series of government policy dialogues on demographic diversity and dividends organized by UNFPA, the African Union, and the Government of Germany. Indeed, such kind of events represent a good opportunity for sharing experience and learning about best practices applied by countries from all around the world in harness demographic dividends. The Republic of Moldova is a small country from Eastern Europe, which, like many other countries in the world, regardless the stage of development, is facing serious demographic challenges such as aging, out-migration of young people, and low life expectancy, especially among men. Demographic changes of the Republic of Moldova, such as aging and migration of skilled population, is affecting all sectors of the country. The way how the government addresses these changes depends how the country is based on its human capital and a mobile population. Moldova is becoming older. With a population of over 2.6 million people, every 5 persons in the country is over 60, and majority of those that are leaving the country are aged 20, 34 years old. Saying this, we acknowledge by immediate action are required. If addressed by proper policy aiming to empower older people through active aging, as well as treating the migration issues by integrating measures into policy development, the aging population and migration will stop causing negative impact on economy and other social area of the country. Starting 2016, the government underlined the importance of shifting from demographic security concept that was focused on population number toward the right-based demographic policy agenda that is driven by data and human rights. The concept vision population and development approved by the National Commission on Population and Development underlined the importance of integrating demographic changes into the overall policy programs with focus on aging, migration, desired fertility, and low life expectancy. The concept vision on population and development was later integrated into the project of the National Development Strategic Moldova 2030 that is focused on the human quality of life approach. Also, the National Development Strategy Moldova 2030 highlights how aging and migration of the working age population can be still an opportunity for the country to harness a potential second demographic dividend. This year, Republic of Moldova has conducted its first voluntary national review in order to assess the progress of the country in implementing the sustainable development goals in the 2030 agenda. In this case, the Ministry of Health, Labor and Social Protection is actively engaged in harnessing the second demographic dividend. As a first step, as mentioned above, was to ensure that main policy document of the country, Moldova 2030, integrates key demographic changes. Then we are investing in active aging programs by allocating domestic funding for empowering older people and promoting active aging. To improve the quality of data and analyze implications for demographic processes, the government is conducting now generation and gender study for the first time. Republic of Moldova is also improving its data on population and migration. Last year, the National Bureau of Statistics, with UNFPA support, published for the first time estimates of the international migration and population with usual residence. This new data showcases a new demographic structure of the country, which guides the policy-making process of the Ministry of Health, Labor and Social Protection. You are also engaged in several programs of taking stock of migration by reintegration into the labor market of Moldovan migrants. All these activities are aiming to harness the potential of the second demographic dividend by making the necessary investment and guiding our work by accurate data. I would like to thank the UNFPA Moldova for continued and fruitful cooperation, due to which we are able to promote right-based and data-driven demographic policies. By the end of this year, we aim to develop an action plan on demography issues arising from the National Development Strategy Moldova 2030. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Russo, the State Secretary, Minister of Health, Labor and Social Protection in Moldova, for your remarks. Thank you very much. Just to indicate to all the listeners that this session is being recorded on YouTube in both English and French. So you also have an opportunity after to go into YouTube and watch and listen. Panelists, thank you very much for your very rich sharing. We learned of your experiences, we learned your challenges, we also learned opportunities that you've taken advantage of. We received prior to the launch some questions, and I would like to address these questions to the different panelists. Again, I'm asking the panelists to be brief. I always say, unfortunately, these Zoom meetings, we don't have an opportunity to engage as much as we can. When we open after COVID, we should have a big conference where we can engage much more than we are able to, and in Zoom. My first question is to Dr. Desai. Dr. Desai, in your presentation, which really was very rich and provided us an introduction into our conversation now, you spoke about 3 critical issues, and I'm linking your presentation to what Commissioner Amira said. Commissioner Amira said, Africa is not short of policy frameworks, they exist. And each of the 3 areas that you addressed, there are policy frameworks on the continent. And my question to you is, if you were to speak to the ministers, the various ministers that work around demographic dividend, what you do encourage them is one key action that they have to put in place for us to move towards harnessing the demographic dividend. Just one key action. Thank you. Over to you.
I would say not losing the learning advantages that we have gained over past 2 decades, because I think the COVID is going to have an enormous impact in repressing the learning outcomes and creating educational inequalities, which will continue on for decades to come. So focusing on minimizing the impact of COVID on children's learning, and particularly girls.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure we can talk about a lot of other actions that can be put in place, but education, if we are to harness the demographic dividend, education is so key. And really COVID-19 is challenging our ability, especially to ensure that girls participate in education. Thank you. Now, Honorable Minister Mohammed, despite highlighting commendable achievements of universal enrollment at the primary school level, in your intervention, you also mentioned that Mauritania is facing enrollment at secondary school and higher levels of education. Just briefly, what are your government's efforts in addressing the challenges at secondary and higher education levels in order to accelerate the development of human capital and enable Mauritania to harness the demographic dividend? Let me repeat my question. What are your government's efforts in addressing the challenges at secondary and higher education levels in order to accelerate the development of human capital and enable Mauritania to harness the demographic dividend? And I know this is not a challenge for Mauritania only, for the majority of the countries in Africa. So it will be interesting to hear what your government's efforts are. Briefly, maybe just 2 efforts, if you can share that with us. Over to you, Honorable Mohammed.
Merci. De façon globale, la Mauritanie travaille à élargir l'accès à l'enseignement secondaire pour l'ensemble des enfants du pays, mais en particulier avec des mesures qui permettent la participation des filles qui sont la partie de la population d'éducation qui n'accèdent pas encore de manière satisfaisante à cet ordre d'enseignement. Donc, les mesures sont la création, bien sûr, d'établissements scolaires à proximité des zones où il n'y a pas d'offres éducatives au secondaire pour le moment, mais également des mesures qui portent sur l'encouragement des filles à rejoindre l'école à travers des bourses, à travers des moyens de transport, à travers des cours de soutien pour améliorer les résultats, mais aussi à travers des espaces sûrs au sein des écoles qui vont développer les compétences de vie chez ces filles et qui doivent, dans le cadre d'une campagne nationale de changement de comportement, mobiliser également les familles pour soutenir l'éducation de leurs filles. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think that's very key and important. Thank you. I'm aware that Mr. Matongo has left, so I'll move on whilst there's a replacement for him, but because I'm running out of time and he has had to leave for an important meeting, I'll move on quickly to Mr. Chibala. Clearly, Mr. Chibala, the interventions from all the panelists show that no country can reap the demographic dividends if certain segments of the population are left behind by development investments. What concrete measure is the government of Zambia taking to invest in the most vulnerable and marginalized populations, including those in remote areas? If I might repeat my question again, what concrete measures is the government of Zambia taking to invest in the most vulnerable and marginalized populations, including those in the remote rural areas? And I know this is key for the SDGs, leaving no one behind. Over to you, Mr. Chibala.
Thank you very much. I think what we've done in Zambia is that we produced a demographic dividend report, which report informed the development of key pillars of the National Development Plan. Among them is the poverty on reducing poverty and vulnerability, another pillar on reducing development inequalities. We also have a full-fledged pillar on human development. And arising from that, we also remodeled the way in which we are implementing these policies. And we pieced our implementation model on an integrated approach. And from this, we are able to see some movements in terms of our indicators. From the human development pillar alone, we have seen a reduction in total fertility rate from 5.3% to 4.7%. We have also seen a reduction in maternal mortality from 483 per 100,000 live births to 278. Infant mortality has also declined from 76 per 1,000 live births to 42. We have also seen a reduction in child mortality from 62 deaths to 19 deaths per 1,000 live births. And this is basically attributed, one, to bringing the intervention level at a higher level within the 7th National Development Plan. But added to that, there is a complementary policy on universal health care. There's also comprehensive policies that are dealing with water and sanitation and education. You also see further reduction in other areas where we have to see the improvement in the quality of life. Access to improved water source has increased from 63 to 72. Access to improved sanitation has gone up from 33 to 54. So with all these interventions, we have to accelerate and deepen the reduction from areas where we have unfavorable indicators to areas where indicators are showing favorable increase. We are likely to see us reaping a change in the demographics and be in a position to reap from demographic dividends. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chibala. I always say you can never succeed without the National Development Planning ministries as well as the ministries of finance. We can work with the ministries of health. If those two ministries are not engaged, thank you very much for that. We need you if we're to reap the demographic dividend. Thank you very much. I had questions for all the panelists, but I'm running out of time. And I'm going to ask one last question and reach out to Ms. Russo. In your intervention, you mentioned that Moldova is currently undergoing complex demographic changes that are affecting the family structures. I found that very interesting. Desired fertility, work-life balance, and interdialogue. What action then is the government of Moldova taking to better these changes, to better prepare for the future? Is my question clear?
Yes.
You want me to repeat it?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for your question. I would like to mention that currently, jointly with UNFPA, we are carrying out the Generation and Gender Survey that covers over 10,000 net respondents aged 15 and between 79 years old. The survey that is conducted based on the international methodology aims to better study family changes, desired fertility, intention of migration, aging, and work-life balance. The result of the survey will be used for development of specific policy documents to address the demographic situation in the Republic of Moldova. This is the first wave of Generation and Gender Survey, and we are aiming to repeat it in 3 years from now. Data from this survey should help Moldovan government in promoting right-based and data-driven demographic policies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the panelists really for a rich discussion. I wish we had more time. Can I ask the co-organizers to make sure that the next conversation and dialogue is going to be much longer than this? There is so much that we needed to unpack after the presentations, and there wasn't adequate time. Thank you very much to all the panelists. You generously shared your experiences, and I think what this dialogue is about sharing experiences, learning from each other. And there was a cross-section of presentation from ministers to senior policymakers to institutions that are working in these issues. And this is so key if we're to learn and benefit from the experiences. I'm coming to the closing segment of our dialogue, our first dialogue, which has really been very successful. And I would like to invite my in-law, as I always say she is, because I'm Zimbabwean and she's Ghanaian. And for those that know, my late president was married to a Ghanaian. So I'm going to invite Dr. Margaret Agama Anyatei, the head of Health Population Division in the Department of Social Affairs, to give her closing remarks. Maggie, over to you.
Thank you very much, my in-law. It's nice seeing you this afternoon. Permit me to stand on existing protocols and acknowledge, at the same time, acknowledge our partnership with Germany and, of course, UNFPA. The ball has been set rolling, and clearly these dialogues have established the importance of having them. And we're indeed looking forward to the next 2 years and the benefits, particularly to the youth, women, and aging, have already come out clearly and strongly. As you said rightly, it's also a strong opportunity for us to learn from each other as regions and as countries as we try and push for stronger investments and implementation of the policies that we already have. Permit me to reiterate the commitment of the African Union Commission to the dialogues, and on behalf of Her Excellency Commissioner of Social Affairs, to thank all partners for their engagement this afternoon, and we hope they stay with us throughout the process as we move forward. So thank you very much, my in-law, and good afternoon.
Thank you, Dr. Margaret. We look forward to the next dialogues, 7 more to come. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to invite Dr. Benoit Kalasa, the Director for Technical Division of UNFPA, for his closing remarks. And of course, just to say, Benoit and myself worked a lot on the demographic dividend, and we took it to the Ministers of Finance and Economic Planning, working together with the AUC. Dr. Kalasa, over to you for your closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Toko, for these nice words and good memories. Indeed, I think we have initiated this process, and I'm very happy to see how far we have come and how this is moving. Dear colleagues, distinguished panelists, partners, and friends, thank you for the enriching and thought-provoking discussion today. I would like to join not my in-law, but a good sister and friend, Dr. Margaret Agama, in thanking our distinguished panelists for the 5 countries. Dr. Sonalde Desai, thank you for your keynote speaking. And of course, my dear sister Toko as a moderator. The 90 minutes of this large event allow us to glimpse into a range of issues, themes, and challenges that we need to examine in depth and set the course for accelerated action in countries as we strive towards the AGG by 2030. The 4D series come at a pivotal time when countries will be rebuilding pandemic-affected communities and weakened economies. In this process, it is essential that governments invest in and capitalize on the most precious resources that a country has, its people, and leverage the power of demographic diversities in all parts of the world. Please mark your calendars to the first in-depth technical 4D dialogue on November 19, which will focus on the topic of data, specifically the population and sector data needed to seize demographic opportunities. Future dialogue will address health issues, the health systems, of course, enabling youth leaders, lifelong learning, innovative job growth in the green economy, and more. But last, this is your series. It is a platform for technical debates on policy responses to demographic changes. So please stay engaged, and we welcome your suggestion for the series. On behalf of the co-organizer, allow me again to thank you for spending this time to listen and engage, and we look forward to connecting with you in November. Thank you, until next time. Merci beaucoup, shukran.
Thank you very much, Benoit. A reminder, please, the dialogue is on YouTube in French and English, and also make sure you mark November 19 for the next dialogue. And let me thank all of you for joining this dialogue, and also to thank the teams organizing the dialogue. We don't see them behind the scene, but they've made this successful. To thank the technicians, and of course the interpreters who have to bear with us reeling fast as if they are not there. And once again, the panelists and both Margaret and Benoit for closing, and the co-organizers. Thank you very much. It was a joy for me to participate as a moderator in this dialogue. Demographic dividends are my passion. Thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.